Hello, Cancer. Welcome to Gemini season. So, Gemini season is the season that comes before your season. And especially for those of you who are Cancer suns, this is the end of your solar year. It is natural, normal, and honestly ideal that at the end of your solar year, you are kind of wrapping things up, feeling maybe like it's a time to be a little more internal. There may be a sense of retreat, natural sense of retreat around this time of year. And certainly over the course of Gemini season, I think that you are needing to kind of get and go deeper and deeper into your own experience. Um, as we move into Gemini season, though, there is a full moon in the sign Sagittarius. And on May 23rd, we have this full moon. And Sagittarius in your chart is a pretty busy place. This is a full moon that is definitely kind of amplifying uh, your day to day, your tasks, your chores, certainly the health and state of your body, and anything that might be needing your attention, needing your energy. But this is also a time when I think that your body and your consciousness and your life are just giving you a lot to process. And as I just said, increasingly now over the course of the next couple weeks, it feels like you have to metabolize, you have to absorb, you have to take time and space in order to um, process what's happening. Now, what is happening? We're living through a moment of really profound change. Your chart has just been going through, I would say, some pretty major shifts. And I think that a lot of you have made some big moves recently. There's a feeling of the horizon looks very different than it did in the not so recent past, and maybe even in the very recent past. Um, how you are conceiving of your future and what is going to be um, kind of like part of your future is shifting, it is changing. And a lot of these changes and shifts are ones that you have calculated in some way. I feel like, you've wanted them. I think that a lot of them, maybe not all, because life is what it is, but I think a lot of them are changes and shifts that are bringing good opportunities to you, and that have actually been expansive or will be expansive. Um, and it's just a lot. It just feels like there's a lot for you to be kind of grappling with right now, and like I said, processing and metabolizing. Um, Now, as we get into the month of June, there is this increasing feeling of potential overwhelm that's coming up for me. And I don't think that it has to be overwhelming for all of you. I think that for a lot of you, it's actually a time of very deep inspiration. And I'll talk about that first because I'd like to start with the positivity. So I'm going to say that this is a period of time that is ripe and full of inspiration. There is a lot of expansive energy in your chart right now. There's a lot of energy that wants you to expand, especially in your intuition, your subtle energy, your faith. This feels like a very powerful time for you to be working with faith practices and also with gratitude practices, with noticing and deep listening practices. Anything that gets you to tune in with the field of awareness that is vast and like bigger than you and bigger than your life and bigger than the connections to other lives that are, part of your day to day life. this is really good for you. And so I would definitely encourage you to get outside if you can. Also to engage with practices like meditation and prayer. Gratitude practices could be really helpful for you right now. Um, my therapist the other day said something that I've been really finding a lot of support in. Um, Basically, she asked me, how would I be going about my business or doing what I need to do if all of my needs were already taken care of? And I think that that question, we have to hold it with care, especially for some folks at some times, because needs are not always met, and a lot of us don't have a lot of our needs met. And so, going down that line of thought, the intention is not to highlight scarcity or lack. And the intention also isn't to get lost in fantasy about what isn't. The intention is to facilitate bodily and cellular awareness of what contentment and I think satisfaction and receptivity can feel like. And for me, at least, and I don't know if it would do this for you or for anybody else, but for me, engaging with that kind of pondering, like really feeling, okay, how would I be if my needs were already met? All of my needs were already met. It helped me actually realize where a lot of my needs are met, but I'm kind of running on like scarcity and survival patterning. And that was super informative to me because I, and I'm not saying you're like me, but take what works if this resonates at all. I definitely noticed that old habits die hard. And that I'm a person who, having been raised in the United States, having been raised at a time, I was born in the 80s, like been raised at a time when the force of capitalism is just so strong and there's so much emphasis on like productivity in kind of a toxic way. A lot of people, like as I was coming of age into my adulthood and trying to be self-employed and stuff like that, it was like, the archetype of the girl boss was real big. And there there was like a glamour around stress and busyness and occupation and like, if you weren't busy and you weren't stressed out, then what the fuck were you doing with your life? That kind of thing. And also, I have had to navigate, as I'm sure a lot of you have, very real scarcity and like very real threat in my existence. And I have a lot of patterning in my body that is about survival. And so tuning in with that question, like, how would I be if my needs were already met, really highlighted to me how much I would be able to relax and how in that relaxation I would become actually a much more enjoyable person for myself and other people to be around probably because I would be more relational, I would be more receptive, I would be more chill, I would probably take things less seriously, I would have a better time, I would be more playful. And feeling into that also allowed me to feel into, okay, where are my needs met in some places where I'm acting like they're not? Because I'm just operating on this stress pattern, like this stress habit. And so again, I'm not trying to bypass very real needs. I'm not trying to tell you that all your needs are met. I am curious though, if you, like me, might be operating on some programming that is outdated and it could possibly be helpful for you to tune in with gratitude as a practice and also contentment as a practice. And in gratitude and contentment, we make ourselves more available for what is. And the feeling that I have for you is that this is actually what brings the 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 most abundance, the most expansion, the most opportunity, certainly in Gemini season, but I'm going to say beyond Gemini season and into the first half of next year, like all the way into June of 2025. So take what works, leave the rest, feel for yourself if that resonates. Now, I also want to say that the world is a really scary and overwhelming place right now, and cancers are sensitive and they care really deeply. And this is a season I think that you are feeling things like you're really you're feeling the world, you're feeling the feelings of the world. Cancer as an archetypal energy really resonates with mothering energy, and you can be any gender and be a mom, okay? Like the maternal, nurturing, caretaking qualities that anybody can have at any age and any body. Cancer as an energetic vibration really resonates with those qualities. And we are living in a time when it's a really scary and horrible time for young people in a lot of ways. And, we're living at a time when genocide and horrible, horrific violence, especially against children, is being broadcasted in like all of our handheld devices 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you might live a life where you are inside of those realities or adjacent or related with them. And there's a lot to hold right now. There is just a lot to hold when it comes to psychic space, emotional space, um, the space of compassion, etc. So this other feeling I have right now is that like not only are all your needs not met, probably, but you might also be acutely aware and really feeling in your body how deeply so many beings' needs are not met, including the more than human realm, animals, earth beings, the earth itself. And Cancer, when you don't give yourself space and time to express your feelings, you get sick. And other people around you don't benefit from that either. And so it feels absolutely essential that you are giving yourself a break right now. And especially those of you that are highly attuned to others, highly empathic, highly sensitive people, um, you really want to be giving yourself space and time to process your feelings. And because people in general, but especially highly sensitive people, especially caretakers, especially nurturers, um, it's like when people are suffering around us, it can feel very counterintuitive and awful to not extend to them, right? And to be like, sorry, I have to go take a self-care moment. Um, we have to be really discerning with our energy though, because if you're not caring for yourself, then the care that you give to others ends up not being that effective. Um, and so you want to make sure that if your energy is being, pulled on, demanded, or if you are really feeling called, right, to outreach, you want to make sure that you are also able to resource, resource yourself. And the best ways to do this, I think, especially for your chart right now, would be to go, back to what I was saying before, which is to practice gratitude and to practice tuning in with where there's already abundance. And that feels like a total quandary, you know, if you're also really holding the immensity of need um, and scarcity right now. It feels like how do you hold them both at the same time? And so I just want to offer that air is abundant. Uh, Nature is abundant. Even if nature is chaotic, even if we're in the middle of a climate crisis, nature is still abundant. The creativity of nature is still abundant. Space is abundant. You know, you could go like on a YouTube journey and watch a whole bunch of like quantum scientists talking about how abundant space is, right? Like how mysterious space is, and let that kind of make some space inside of you. Um, Focusing on the small things and the details of the limitless space, right? Like, how does the wind feel against your skin right now? Or can you meditate in the field of sound? Like, really just open your ears and listen as far to the right, and then as far to the left, and then as far inward and as far upward as you can. And let all of your consciousness kind of pour into listening, like tuning in with details in a subtle way. That way could be very calming and steadying for you. Um, I also feel like this is a time when connecting with other people in ways that allow for a kind of you know, internal and external communion could be really helpful. And what I mean by internal and external is like being in communal space where people are doing inner work, right? Like working internally together. So this could be like, you know, a faith circle or a peer counseling group or something like that. It could also be an embodied astrology experience. And we have a couple of different offerings over the course of the year and certainly this season. Um, Starting off with full moon offerings every single month with Junata Petrus called Artistic Alchemy. Junata is an amazing artist and also a Cancer. I think you would love her. She's like big uh love energy, you know, big embrace energy. Um and she's just holding space for people to be with creativity as a life practice. And that definitely includes, you know, holding the complexities of creativity. Like, how do we create in a world where there's so much destruction? How do we create when we're constantly struggling to survive? But in her space, there's always room to be with the feelings. There's always room to work with prompts and practices in communal space to share with one another. I find her spaces to be really revitalizing and superhuman, right? Like very just like, ugh, like hanging out with people who are present and also in their own practice, and they're going to show up with vulnerability and um, creativity. So, uh, around the full moon every single month, good for Cancers, right? To be working with the moon. We have offerings with Junata with Artistic Alchemy. Then, over the course of the year, one of our facilitators, Sherry Taylor, is offering a series of devotional cycles. And in these devotional cycles, she's inviting us to attune with the femme phases of Saturn. And you might be familiar with Saturn because Saturn is the archetypal energy that governs your opposite sign, Capricorn. And Saturnian influences are actually really important for Cancer bodies. Saturn ultimately is about building strong bonds in relationships and committing to them, committing to the time, to the effort, to the labor, building the integrity, building the connective tissues. Saturn can also be representative of restriction and limitation and challenge, but in that it also is representative of our growth paths. So just like your bones grow through pressure, our consciousness grows through challenge and working through, um, states of depression or dis-ease or something like that actually helps us to know ourselves and our own capacity and our own needs profoundly. Um, Sherry is inviting us to do the work of planetary allyship, which is totally different than just listening to a horoscope. Tuning in with astrology in ways that are more passive, like you are tuning in with me right now, is awesome, right? Full of symbolism, I hope, full of inspiration, like gonna give you something that I really, really hope is useful. But building your own relationship, especially with the planetary energies, is completely different. And this is about doing devotional spiritual practice and working very deeply with archetypes and inner archetypes. Um, the femme face of Saturn is the mother of time. And there's something here about, for me, I think you tuning in with this archetypal energy in your own body, in your own life, really embracing the generous embrace of the mother of time. Being embraced, I used embrace twice there in two different ways. So being embraced by the mother of time, embracing her right back. In that there is such humility and such support that we are able to let go of what we can't control and also really drop in with the work that is ours to do. And so this feeling that I have of you need resourcing right now, like you actually Cancer bodies need support right now because it's been a lot of output for you for a while. I'm going to say like the last year of your life has been kind of bonkers. I think like a lot of you have been expending a ton of energy. And there's something right now about needing to regroup, needing to resource, needing to come back into something that feels like your own spiritual internal connection. And a lot of you are holding a lot of feelings, and a lot of you are holding a lot of other people's feelings. And I want you to have someone to hold those feelings with you. And I think that this archetype can help you with that, can help you hold that. So as we get into the month of June, there is more and more of this feeling for me of, okay, Cancer, it's time for you to go into your cocoon. Your birthday season, the solstice is coming up in just a couple of weeks. Your energy is about to shift at that point. We got a lot of energy going into Cancer, even at the end of Gemini season. So I'm gonna say from like, I'm really gonna say from the full moon, the Sagittarius full moon on the 23rd of May until about the 15th of June. You are cocooning. Like you need to take a step back. You need to give to yourself. And in the giving to yourself, you can give to your spirit. And the more that you can touch in, tap in with your spirit, the better. This is a period of time in which your energy is limited. And if you push yourself past your own limits, what usually happens is like injury, illness, burnout, anxiety, agitation, depression, those kinds of things. Like we get into imbalance. So even if you can't totally, take a complete break from your life, please make sure that you're resting every day. Like sit down for 10 minutes somewhere and close your eyes and just lean back and don't think. Just relax. Like let yourself commune with silence, with quietude. Super important the first couple weeks of June. Okay, especially the first week of June. It just feels like there's a lot that's happening internally in your unconscious and your subconscious There's a lot that's happening in the world that I think is affecting your mental, emotional, and energetic state. And you need to rest. You need to rest your brain. You need abundant breath. It's a great time to do breathing practices. Remember that your breath comes from plants. Okay, it's a great time to go lie underneath a tree somewhere and try and commune with the tree. Okay, like let that be some relationship support, especially around the new moon. As you know, as a lunar ruled being, Cancer, you're particularly sensitive to the moon's phases. And we have a new moon on June 6th in Gemini. This is a new moon in your solar 12th house. This is a new moon that is asking you to turn off the lights, lay down. Now, when you turn off the lights, when you rest your eyes, when you give yourself to rest, that means you're not doing, you're being. Guess what? That's when you are most deeply in relationship with your own spirit. That's when the spirits who are around you, your guides, your guardians, your allies, your ancestors, they can talk to you. When you're out there busy, doing, they might be talking, but you can't always hear. But when you let yourself rest, you can listen deeper. And the second week of June, I'm going to say, so like from after that new moon until about the 15th, when I'm saying, okay, now your energy is starting to come back, that second week of June, you want to be listening deeply. This is a week that is full of potential for inspiration, for guidance, for breakthroughs, for like deep truths to emerge for you. If you give yourself space and time for it. And part of the space and time for some of you involves feeling things. Like you just have to feel things. Some of you are unwinding a lot and you need to feel all kinds of stuff that you probably have been carrying around for, I don't even know how many weeks or how many months or how many years or how many lifetimes at this point, and you like haven't really had the space and time to feel it. Now you just need to feel it. And that might mean that you need to feel despair. It might mean that you need to feel hopeless. It might mean, all kinds of stuff. Feel it. Feel your feelings, journal about them, cry about them, get on the phone with a friend and talk about them, but then close your eyes and rest and just be with them. Let them be there in your body in a conscious way so that you can feel them, process them, and then let them move on. When we get to the 15th or so of June, your energy starts to come back in. We have Venus moving into your sign around the 14th. This is the same day as Mercury Cazimi. This feels like, woof, okay, Cancer coming back. Then we have Mercury moving into your sign a couple days after that. Mercury and Venus are going to make a conjunction right at the first degree of Cancer on June 17th. That's just 3 days before the solstice and the sun comes into your sign. So this to me feels like your energy is returning, it is increasing. You are feeling hopefully supported from your time off. Please take some time off this season, Cancer. If you do nothing else, please take some time off. This feeling of like you have to fall apart in order to come back together is a feeling that's so pervasive over the course of 2024. Like that's like one of the main themes this year. I don't know if you've noticed in the world that that's also what's happening for a lot of people and for entire nations and like entities and stuff. It's like things have to fall apart. They have to unform so that they can reform, right? Like there is this kind of dissolving energetic. And one way to think about this astrologically is to consider the presence of Neptune in Pisces. Neptune is a kind of dissolving influence. And Pisces is the very last sign of the zodiac. It's also your fellow water sign, and the very last sign, the last degree of the last sign is a place of great dissolution and dissolve. One of our facilitators, Gabs 404, is working starting in May with a space at Embodied Astrology's virtual community called the Nebula Lab. And this space is a space where Gabs is taking the influence of Neptune and Pisces to feel into dissolve and dissolving all kinds of things, dissolving identity, dissolving time, dissolving relationships, dissolving reality. And really just wanting to hold space for like working with astrology, talking about these ideas, practicing it in our bodies, and also making art about it, particularly through photography and visual art. And I think that, I'm saying take a break, let your eyes rest, get yourself to kind of, tap out a little bit. But also, again, this feeling of like being alone together with people or being in spaces where there's a particular kind of quality around the communal connection feels really important. And I'll also say that, this space of the unconscious that you are traversing, especially over Gemini season, is a highly creative space. And I think a lot of you have been really focused on like the hustle and like getting stuff done for a while. But to just be in a kind of like dissolving creative space where you're not necessarily working for an outcome, but you're exploring something in a very soft and expansive way could be really nourishing for you. So all of the information about everything that I just mentioned with EA is in the show notes of whatever you're listening or watching and at embodiedastrology.com. And whether or not I see you in some of these spaces, Cancer, I am wishing you all the best in Gemini season and beyond. Bye for now.